generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he arose. It is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Put my ear to the earth, but I shall not betray my foreboding with a cry. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full unto the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. The Romanovs' dynasty began here at the Ipatiev monastery in 1613, and by the irony of fate, it ended in the house of merchant Ipatiev in Yekaterinburg in 1918. Every inch of this land in the Ural Mountains remembers how the blood-stained corpses of the Tsar and his family were dragged along by their executioners. The documents of Nikolai Sokolov, the first investigator, who questioned the Tsar and his family, diaries, witnesses' accounts, and the Romanovs' letters, icons, and personal belongings carry the memory of those days.
Подай, Господи, всесильнейшему, самодержавнейшему, великому государю нашему, императору Николаю Александровичу, сия России и супруги его.
The enamel cross and the buttonhole, the grey woolen jacket, the sad faces. How long ago all that was. The beautiful faces, how pale they are. The heir, the empress, the full grand duchesses.
И всему царствующему
Nicholas Alexandrovich Romanov, the Russian Emperor Nicholas II, was born on May the 6th, 1868, and crowned on May the 14th, 1897. The main traits of the Tsar's character were honesty, naturalness, simplicity, and unpretentiousness, bordering on shyness. He was well read, liked Russian literature, music, and simple manual work, and fluently spoke 4 European languages. He was very pious. When his father, Emperor Alexander III, died, Tsarevich Nicholas was a battalion commander with the Life Guards of the Preobrazhensky Regiment. He would stubbornly refuse to be promoted to the rank of general on moral grounds. His only son, Tsarevich Alexei, heir to the Russian throne, was born on August the 12th, 1904. The Tsar and Tsaritsa were immensely happy. Writes Anna Vyrobova, Empress Alexandra's maid of honor, in her memoirs. The Empress felt unwell in her room. She went down to her bedroom. In a little while, gave birth to the heir. What a charming boy. Unfortunately, he has an incurable disease of the blood. A small bruise or cut could have killed him. The heir was a hemophiliac. Look, he has a limp in his left leg. It's the result of a recent injury. His father took him to the military parades, on cruises, and later to the front line. When he was well, he was a charming boy with a quick mind, at times naughty and mischievous, as any child can be. Two sailors from the Emperor's sailing boat, the Standard, looked after the heir, but it was hard to keep him from getting hurt. When he was sick in bed, the Empress sat by his bedside for several days and nights on end. Of all the Tsar's family, only their dog, named Joy, would survive. Now look, in an instant, the heir will pick up a snowball, throw it at Monsieur Girard, his favorite teacher, tutor and nanny, and cry out, "Look, they're shooting a film about us."
Мой дорогой, мой любимый, мой ангел, с какой радостью я получила твое дорогое письмо. Спасибо тебе за него много раз.
My darling,
Я его
my
уже читала
angel,
два.
I was so happy to receive a letter from you. Thank you ever so much. I have read it twice and kissed it several times. Agnushka's leg is better, but it still hurts when he walks on it. Mary is recovering from a cold. She slept well. Her temperature is 37. Mrs. Becker is looking after Tatiana, who only comes out for breakfast. Dr. Botkin made me go to bed because my heart is dilated and my eyes hurt because of the facial nerve. My dear, the sunshine of my life, I'm well only when we are together. When you hold Alexis in your lap, Olga comes up to the window of the sitting room. Tatiana sits at the piano, and Anastasia babbles. When all our family together, I feel strangely warm inside and can't help crying.
Мой родной, мой любимый, мой ангел.
The Grand Duchesses are also beautiful, healthy, pure and fresh. Olga, the most gifted and thoughtful of the Tsar's daughters, liked poetry. 2 pieces of paper written in her hand would be found in the Ipatiev house. God, please give us patience to weather through these stormy and gloomy days. But that would be later. Now, all the days seem bright and happy. Tatiana, the handsomest of the 4 sisters, is her mother's favorite. Maria, also a beauty with a heart of gold, is her father's favorite. Anastasia, the youngest daughter of the Tsar, constantly smiles and flits about like a butterfly. The Empress Alexandra Fyodorovna, Princess Alex of Hesse and Darmstadt, was the 4th child of the Grand Duke of Hesse and Princess Alice of Great Britain, the youngest daughter of Queen Victoria.
Мой ангел, тебе приходится страдать за царствование твоих предшественников, и Бог знает, как велики твои тяготы. Пусть наше наследство будет для
My
тебя
angel,
легче.
you have to suffer for what your predecessors have done, and only God knows what a heavy burden you have to carry. I hope the heritage we shall leave to Alexis will make his life easier. He has his own will and his own mind, and I don't want him to build everything anew. Be like Peter the Great and Ivan the Terrible. Don't laugh, you naughty one. I don't want to see you that strong with all those people who are trying to gain influence over you. Be strong. God is above you and for you and with you. centuries, the Russian Tsars built, collected together, and enlightened Russia. Nicholas II continued their cause. He had a vision of a great and prosperous nation. Everything went well in the country and his life. The heir was growing up, the daughters were approaching marriage age, and everything augured for a happy future. The young and pretty princess became the empress of the greatest world power. She converted to the Russian Orthodox Church and came to like Russia, but she was never happy there. She shied away from the court with all its gossips and intrigues. By 1913, Russia had become a leading world power in terms of industrial production growth. She had a strong army and navy, and her peasants were getting rich. In a matter of 5 or 6 years, Russia might outrun all the other countries. But this was not to be. However, fate was so cruel to Russia, as it never was to any other country. And like a ship, Russia sank when the harbor was already in sight. Everything collapsed when the storm had already blown over. War was already breathing down Russia's neck. Grand Duchess Tatiana sets up a charity fund and becomes actively involved in its work. Empress Alexandra builds a hospital in front of the St. Peter's and Paul's fortress. It still stands there. Unashamed of doing dirty work, the Tsar's family spends a lot of time looking after the wounded.
Блаженни вы, егда поносят вам, и женут, и рекут всяк зол глагол на вы лжущие меня ради. Радуйтесь и веселитесь, яко узда ваша много на небесех.
Anna Alexandrovna Vyrobova, the Empress's maid of honor and closest friend. After the Bolshevik Revolution, she escaped from the notorious Kresti prison in St. Petersburg and walked across the icebound Gulf of Finland, where she died in 1964 without ever seeing Russia again. From the Empress's letter to Anna Vyrobova. Dear Anna, patience, faith, and truth are the only things that matter. The other day I had a dream. I saw old man Grigori standing by his grave alive. He made me a sign with his hand and smiled. His eyes were so bright and happy. I woke up sad and confused. But then I calmed down completely and my heart started beating with joy, for I realized that the dream was a good message from above. God save you. Grigory Efimovich Rasputin, an illiterate peasant from the village of Pokrovskoye in the Tobolsk region. Some believed he was a Satan. Others said he was a saint. Some said he was a defrocked monk. Others called him Antichrist and the evil genius of Russia. He possessed incredible psychic powers and physical strength. Notorious for healing powers, he was brought to the Tsar's family to attend to the sick heir. Hated by the court and the army, Rasputin was killed by a group of conspirators. He was poisoned, shot, and then thrown into an ice hole. The Empress became sick with grief. The old man's prophetic words sounded clearly in her mind. If I die, you will all die, and Russia will die. The Tsar abdicates. He and all who love him are condemned to suffering and death. The new rulers are trying to belittle his efforts, condemn his policy, and distort his image in the eyes of the people. 1909, the Emperor said to his reformer minister Pyotr Stolypin, "I am condemned to awful suffering, but I shall not receive my reward here on earth." How many times I applied to myself the words of Iowa the sufferer, "The most horrible things I dreaded happened to me."
Любимый, когда ты прочтешь эти строки, поезд будет уносить тебя далеко от нас. Еще
My
раз
love,
пришел час разлуки.
when you read these words, the train will be taken far away from us. Once again we have to part, and this is always so hard to bear. When you go away, I feel so lonely that I can hardly keep myself from crying, even though I have my little dear baby and the girls with me. I feel as if a part of my life is going away with you. I can't live without you. My darling, my dear, I kiss your cushion in the morning and at night. I cross it and miss its precious owner.
И тоскую по ее драгоценном хозяине. Ах, эта несчастная война! Временами нет сил об ней слышать. Ужасы
Oh,
кровопролития
this
терзают
miserable war. At times I can't bear hearing about it. Its horrors tear my heart to pieces, and it's only faith, hope, and trust in God's infinite justice that support me. The emperor on the front line. The capital is in revolt. Lenin and the Bolsheviks are trying to demoralize the army. The Germans and German gold help them. In February 1917, a fatal thing happens. A revolt flares up in Petrograd. The city's garrison comes over to the side of the revolutionaries. The State Duma, the government ministers and politicians make the Tsar abdicate. From the Emperor's diary, I cannot allow a Russian to spill a single drop of Russian blood. I abdicate on my own behalf and on behalf of my little son, for my only wish is victory and well-being for my beloved Russia. From Nicholas II's statement of abdication in favor of Grand Duke Mikhail Alexandrovich. At this time of great struggle with the foreign enemy, who has been trying to conquer our motherland for 3 years, our Lord has decided to put Russia to a new hard test. During these critical days of the life of Russia, we decided that it was our moral duty to help our people unite and pool all their forces in the name of an early victory. We deemed it right to renounce the Russian throne and surrender our supreme authority. Unwilling to part with our beloved son, we bequeath our heritage to our brother Grand Duke Mikhail Alexandrovich and bless his ascension to the Russian throne. God help Russia. Pskov, 15 hours, 3 minutes, p.m., March the 2nd, 1917. Nicholas.
И еще, Ваше Величество, указ о назначении князя Львова председателем Совета Министров.
Grand Duke Mikhail Alexandrovich, Nicholas' younger brother, would abdicate 24 hours later. That was the beginning of the end.
Ах, Ваше Величество, если бы это было раньше.
Pavlovsky Palace in the St. Petersburg suburb. Duke Mikhail Alexandrovich Misha, the Tsar's younger brother, Lieutenant General, member of the State Duma, commander of the Caucasian Aboriginal Division, commander of the 2nd Cavalry Corps, and later Inspector General of the entire Russian cavalry. Killed by the Bolsheviks in Perm on the night of June 13, 1918. Georgievich Kornilov, a revolutionary general, commander of the Petrograd military district, later commander of the volunteer army. He came to arrest the Tsar's family. The Empress would say, "I'll tell the children about the arrest myself." "Open the gate for the ex-emperor," an officer commanded. Colonel and Citizen Romanov comes out. he had not come to see either the heir or his wife Alexandra. What was the former emperor of the former great power thinking about? Didn't he commit a fatal mistake? If he did, where did he err? What did he do wrong? And when? In the meantime, he watched with bitterness the revolutionary guards playing the fool. Sings the favorite song of Tsar Nicholas and his family. They know that they are condemned, and they are awaiting their fate. The foreboding of evil rested heavily on the Tsar's mind during his last days in Alexandrovsky Palace.
Раздалось марш вперед, и опять поплелись до вечерней зари каторжане. Не видать им отрадных деньков впереди. Кандалы грустно стонут в тумане, не видать им отрадных деньков впереди. Кандалы грустно стонут в тумане.
Rasputin was hated so much that he was not left in peace even after his death. His grave was desecrated, and a drunken mob dragged his body under the Empress's windows, chucked it into the undergrowth, and burnt it. In the morning, several nuns and women from nearby villages went to the place to gather the ashes of the holy man. Why are they killing animals in the park? The Tsarevich asked. It's revolution, Nicholas replied. Alexander Fedorovich Kerensky, a lawyer, revolutionary and prominent Mason. He was born in Simbirsk, the city where Lenin was born. Kerensky and Lenin went to the same the head of the provisional government. He was ousted by the Bolsheviks and died in America in 1972. On August the 9th, Kerensky declares that the presence of the enemies of the people, that is the Emperor and his family, so close to the front line, and the Germans, is dangerous for revolutionary Russia, and the Tsar and his family are exiled to Tobolsk. Many representatives of the Romanov dynasty were banished to Siberia. The old man's prophecy came true. God will lead us to my home. On August the 14th, 1917, a special heavily guarded train on which the Japanese flag was raised for security reasons took the Tsar and his family to far-off Siberia.
1 Siberia.
town of Tobolsk in Siberia. The Governor General's house in which they were to live was not ready, so the Tsar and his family stayed for a few days in the Abalakhsky monastery, where they did their first prayer. This icon and Bible, which belonged to Alexandra Fyodorovna, are now kept in the Church of Iowa the Sufferer in Brussels. From the Tsar's diary. We settled quite comfortably in Tobolsk. Fresh air is good for the boy. Physical work and the desk give me real pleasure.
Мой родной, милый, любимый Ники, Христос воскресе! В этот день нашего обручения
My dearest Nicky,
все
happy
мои
Easter.
самые нежные мысли
On this day of our wedding,
они
all my
наполняют
thoughts
мое
are about
сердце
you.
безграничной
They fill my
любовью.
heart with deep gratitude for the love and happiness you have given me since the memorable day 22 years ago. With God's help, I shall repay all your kindness 100-fold. All my thoughts, all my suffering and all my doubts were rewarded when I received you, my fiancé and husband. Farewell, my dear, my first and last happiness, love, my treasure. Our hearts and souls are united forever and in eternity. I passionately hold you close to my heart and kiss with infinite tenderness your eyes and every little spot of you, which I love and which belongs to me only. God save you.
Да хранит тебя Бог.
Russia, my beloved Russia. Russia, poor Russia. I know not how to pity you, and I carry your cross with care. You may give your demonic beauty to any charmer who may ensnare and deceive you. But you will not perish. Your beautiful face will just be misted with concern. What storms befall you, Russia? They rejected the Bolsheviks, and millions of Russians followed them. For ages, the life cause of such people was to serve God, the Tsar, and motherland. And General Anton Denikin wrote later, the Reds' victory was Russia's tragic inevitability. Millions of innocent people were killed.
Приговор привести в исполнение. Немедленно.
without repentance, without trial, and even without charges, without crosses or graves. What's your name? Petrov. Face to the wall, hands back, fire, is the language of a prison warden. According to the Guinness Book of Records for 1986, 66.7 million people were killed in Russia from 1917 to 1963. Serofsky's prophecy was coming true. There will be a time of great trouble in Russia, and rivers of blood will flow, because people will rise against the Tsar and the autocracy. But God will glorify the Tsar. For several days, the train's commandant, Yakovlev, resorted to all sorts of tricks to conceal his real destination. Citizen Romanov, why do people call you Nicholas the Bloody? I haven't signed a single death sentence, the Tsar replied. Your Majesty, I am a Bolshevik and a personal representative of Sverdlov, but I don't care. I can arrange your escape. Without my family, it's out of the question, the Tsar replied. In a few months, Yakovlev would join General Kolchak's army and fight against the Reds. He was last seen in Harbin, China. The Emperor, the Empress, and their daughter Maria arrived in Yekaterinburg on April the 26th. The heir and the other three Grand Duchesses would join them later. The Romanovs were met by members of the Ural Soviet, Beloborodov, Koloshokin, and Yudkovsky, and a numerous convoy. The captives were settled in the Ipatiev house, while Prince Dolgoruki, Prince Tatishev, and sailor Nagorny, Tsarevich Alexei's attendant, were taken to prison and shot at the Ivanovskaya cemetery several days later. Their executioners did not bother to bury their bodies. Pyotr Lazarevich Voykov, a Bolshevik, commissar, and later Soviet diplomat. He was assassinated in Warsaw in 1925 by Russian patriot Boris Kavarda in revenge for the murder of the Tsar and his family. Here, in the Ipatiev house, The Tsar and his family began their first day with a common prayer. At 3 o'clock, they had lunch. Their meals were prepared by Soviet cooks. Then they had tea, and in the evening a light supper. The routine never changed. Occasionally they were allowed to take short walks in the courtyard, surrounded with a high fence, under the watchful eyes of their guards, armed with rifles and machine guns.
Отче наш, жиси на небесех, да светится имя Твое, да приедет царствие Твое, да будет воля Твоя, как на небеси и на земли. Хлеб наш насущный дашь нам днесь, и остави нам долги наши, як уже мы
This
оставляем
traditional Russian
должником
prayer
нашим.
was said before a meal.
Но избави нас от лукавого. Господи помилуй, Господи помилуй, Господи помилуй, благослови.
Yankil Khainovich Yurovsky came from a lower middle-class family in the Tomsk province. A friend of Yakov Sverdlov, after the revolution he became a member of the Ural Emergency Commission, appointed on Lenin's instruction, the guardian of the diamond treasury in the 20s. Yurovsky was the man who brought to the Bolshevik leader the jewelry taken off the bodies of the executed members of the Tsar's family.
Лицом к стене!
Face to the wall, hands back. Fall in, attention.
Товарищи!
Comrades, this is our new commandant, Comrade Yurovsky.
Товарища Юровского!
Всем понятно?
Get it?
А кому не понятно?
Those who don't will be shot. Good morning, comrades. Break up.
Разойдись.
The guards and the Cheka men behaved abominably. They snatched food from the Tsar's and Tsarina's plates with their dirty hands, smoked and spat on the floor. They sang obscene songs, swore and drank. They escorted the young Grand Duchesses to the toilet and back. The Tsar and his family have to live under these humiliating conditions for 78 days. The Ural Soviet and the Moscow leaders were feverishly looking for a way to complete this drawn-out assassination of the Romanov family. The Brest Peace Treaty had already been signed, and Lenin no longer needed the trump card. These letters were written by Commissar Voykov, who knew French well. He was the man who signed an order for sulfuric acid. What for? You will know this a little later. The Cheka men are preparing an intrigue with secret correspondence.
Велено вам.
The man hands a letter and says, "This is for you." There is an underground officers' organization in the city. They asked you to read this. Strange things began to happen in the house. letters were secretly handed to the Tsar,
За ответом приду я.
allegedly from loyal officers who were preparing his escape.
Господин комендант.
Mr. Commandant, I've told you. Mr. Commandant, I've told you.
На шкафу.
Here, we found this on top of the wardrobe when Victor Andreevich was wiping off dust. I'm sorry.
Извольте.
Не бойтесь.
Never mind. You needn't be afraid. You can go now.
Я...
Да, идите.
Хорошо. Хорошо. Я тебя,
I'll
падла,
bury you alive, you bastard.
Сгною.
Николай Александрович, комендант недоволен.
A messenger says to the Tsar, Nicholas Alexandrovich, the commandant is angry. It's late. He says you must go to bed. This song, the lyrics for it were written by Konstantin Romanov. It's about a poor soldier who died from wounds in the faraway Ural Mountains. The Tsar and his family liked it very much. We shall always remember you, soldier.
Тяжкий недуг доконал. Рано его от семьи оторвали, горько заплакала мать всю глубину.
Konstantin Romanov was the last of the royal family to be buried in the Romanovs' burial vault in the St. Peter's and Paul's Cathedral in St. Petersburg. The Tsar ordered 7 sarcophaguses to be made and indicated the place where he wanted him and his family to be buried. However, the whole of Russia became his grave. June 13, 1918. Grand Duke Mikhail Alexandrovich is murdered. The Bolsheviks shot him along with his driver and English secretary Mr. Johnson. Their bodies were dismembered and burnt in the smelt furnaces of the Motovilikhinsky gun-making plant. He was the first Romanov to be killed. The entire Romanov dynasty would be exterminated soon afterwards.
Зарыли в мертвой земле глубоко. Там за заставой, где ветры лишь выли, где-то в глуши далеко. Спи же, товарищ наш одинокий, спи и покойся себе. В дальних краях на уральской сторонке вечная память тебе.
Moscow, Kremlin, to the Secretary of the Council of Ministers. They were not the men who signed the Romanovs' death sentence. They fulfilled the order. They were the executioners. The fate of the Tsar's family was decided in Moscow. criminal decision to execute the Romanovs was taken by Sverdlov, Trotsky, and Dzerzhinsky. And there is no doubt that behind them all was Lenin.
Куда? Назад! Назад! Получи, падла!
On the night of July the 17th to 18th, the day of remembrance of the Russian saint Sergei Radonezh, the Bolsheviks brought several horse-driven carts to the building of the Napoleon School in Alapayevsk, a city 140 kilometers away from Yekaterinburg, where 5 princes and grand duchesses, Elizaveta Fedorovna, were kept like prisoners and carried away the grand duchess, the Empress's elder sister and mother superior of the Marfo-Mariinsky Nunnery and Asylum in Moscow, Yakovlevna, a nun who volunteered to follow the Grand Duchess, Grand Dukes Evgeny Mikhailovich, Grand Dukes Ivan, Konstantin, and Igor, Prince Vladimir Pavlovich Paley, and Fyodor Mikhailovich Remes. The following telegram was sent to Yekaterinburg and Moscow in the morning. On July the 18th, a group of unidentified armed men attacked the Napoleon School where the Grand Dukes were kept. During the shootout, 1 bandit was killed and several others are believed to have been wounded. The Grand Dukes managed to escape and their whereabouts are unknown. All our efforts to catch them have failed so far. The search continues. The Alapayevsk Executive Committee, Abramov, Perminov, and Astanin. The telegram was signed by the murderers. That was how the Bolsheviks' big lie began.
Воздашь мне радость спасения Твоего, и Духом Владычным утверди меня. Научу беззаконные путем Твоим, и нечестивые к Тебе обратятся. Избави меня от кровей, Боже, Боже, спасение моего. Возрадуется язык мой правде Твоей.
Witnesses said that psalms and groans were heard from under the ground for 2 days, and they stopped only when the Bolsheviks poured burning sulfur into the mine. The martyrs were dead.
Смиренно Бог не уничижит. Ублажи, Господи, благоволением Твоим Сиона, и да созиждутся стены Иерусалимские. Тогда благоволишь и жертву правды, возношения все сожигаемые. Тогда возложат на алтарь Твой тельца.
Яко подобает тебе всякая слава, честь и поклонение Отцу и Сыну и Святому Духу.
At 10 a.m. on July the 14th, the Tsar and his family had their last prayer in the Ipatiev house. When Deacon Boimirov started chanting a prayer for the dead, the Romanovs instinctively knelt down, and it looked as if they were participating in their own funeral service, although they had almost 3 days more to live. You are not watching your son properly, Yarovsky would say to the Tsar.
Плохо смотрите за сыном. Вперед! Давай, давай!
Forward, come on! On that night, everyone went to bed earlier than usual. At midnight, all the members of the Euro-Soviet came to the house. Voykov, Beloborodov, Ditkovsky, and Goloshukin. The order from Moscow was brief. All and at once. Yarovsky, what about the funeral? Haven't you changed your mind? Don't you worry. We'll bury them all, right? Yurovsky. Enough, Voykov, enough. I'm responsible for everything. The walls here are made of wood and plaster, so there'll be no ricochets. One has to take care of people, Shaya. Before it's too late, we must take them to the river Tagil, shoot and drown them. But if the corpses are discovered, the revolution will be compromised. You'll answer for it. Nikulin, follow me. Vaganov, take the guns and ammunition out. I think we'll have to shoot them all tonight. Take the guns.
Полагаю, сегодня ночью всех придется расстрелять. Разбирай оружие.
11 revolvers and 157 cartridges were handed out. 2 soldiers refused to take the guns. They refused to kill innocent children. One of them was Imrenaj, a Hungarian who would be hanged by his own people in Budapest in 1956. We don't shoot children and women. Get out!
Невыразимо много страданий и горя. Все, кого я люблю, страдают. Но Бог не терпит слабости. Он хранит нас от сомнения, дает нам силы и уверенность.
From the Empress's letter, there's so much suffering and grief. All whom I love are suffering, but God does not permit weakness. He protects us from doubt and gives us strength and confidence. Every day, I thank the Creator for leaving us here, rather than sending us abroad. Have no doubt in our people. The criminals have seized power over them, and horror and anarchy are reigning supreme. But the time will come when the Savior will come to this miserable and deceived people. It was past midnight when Yurovsky woke up Dr. Botkin and told him to gather the Tsar's family in the living room. Go and see if Yermakov has come or not. What's the matter? Wake up, Yevgeny Sergeyevich. What's up? Wake everyone up and tell them to come to the living room. We are moving quick. Pack up, my dear. We are moving.
Значит так, граждане Романовы и слуги.
Well, it's this way, citizens Romanovs and the servants. We are expecting an attack by anarchists, and your life may be in danger. So we decided to take you to another place. It's near here. We shall wait for the car downstairs.
Пока прибудет авто, мы будем ждать внизу. Все,
All of you, please follow me.
Прошу.
This way, please.
Торопись.
Hurry up. An enameled cross in the buttonhole, the grey woolen jacket, the sad faces. How long ago all that was. The beautiful faces. How pale they are. The heir, the empress, and the 4 grand duchesses. The Empress asked for chairs.
И сесть не на что.
3 стула.
There are no chairs or anything to sit on.
Господа,
Ladies and gentlemen,
объявляется
I'm here to
решение
read you the decision of the Ural Soviet,
И я
and I'm
уполномочен
authorized. It's time. What are you doing?
Николай Александрович.
Nicholas Alexandrovich,
За границей хотели
your
вас
relatives
спасти.
abroad wanted to save you,
Но этого им не
but they
пришлось.
needn't bother now,
И потому мы принуждены
because
теперь
we are
сами
going to shoot you now.
расстрелять. Закрывай.
Get off.
Товарищ.
Comrades.
Товарищ.
Comrades.
Русская революция.
Thank you in the name of the Russian Revolution. Everything was over. Now, the executioners had to cover up the traces. Voznesensky Avenue, Voznesensky Street, and further along the Verkhisetsky Road to the village of Kopteki. Hold it! Hold it! It's all your fault, Yermakov, you drunken beast. They have sent us droshky. Fuck you off and quick! Get going, you bastard! There was no luck for Yurovsky. Instead of carts, Yermakov sent phaetons to the forest. Break up! Don't you hear what I said? Hold back, I'll shoot without warning. Get it? Move back, you bastards! I'm telling you, don't stop. Move back.
Кому сказал? Назад!
The emperor once said, "A sin offering may be needed to save Russia, and I shall be that offering. Thy will be done." The plan was to shoot the Tsar and his family, drown their bodies in the river, or throw them into an empty mine and blow up its shaft, or dismember the corpses and burn them on a fire and bury the ashes to leave them to the wind to scatter. And again, Yurovsky was not lucky. A witness appeared. It was a peasant who had come to the mine by chance, and he goes to the Ural Soviet. What's to be done then? But then, the mine didn't blow up. The woods didn't burn. The horses didn't go. The motor car's wheels stuck in the mud and skidded. The people bustled, were lost, hindered each other. And it seemed the land itself didn't wish to take part in hiding the crime. Then Yurovsky will order that they should dig the pit right in the middle of the road. Mutilated remains will be poured over by acid and burned. The land will be smoothed by the wheels. This poem prayer was written by Olga Nikolaevna and found after the murder. O God, give us patience on these stormy, gloomy days, to bear the people's persecution and tortures of our executioners. O give us, God, the fortress to forgive the villainy of our neighbor and meet our hard and bloody cross with your gentleness. Revolution always spills suffering and blood. As far as Russia was concerned, this revolution produced a genocide of its own people. One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever.
Владыка мира, Бог вселенной, благослови молитвой нас и дай покой душе смиренной, невыносимый страх.
The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteneth to his place where he arose. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun.